Decided to get back to work today. Got another big challenge ahead of us. One of the most well-coached teams, not only in the country, Big Ten, and for a long time. Got a lot of respect for Coach's staff and his history, and one of the best coaches in the last couple of decades in college football. So we'll get back to work today. We got our hands full. It's a very, very good team. They don't give you anything. They're very sound, and obviously the history of what they've done against Ohio State is something that all of our guys are going to be aware of this week as we go to work today at practice.
We'll open it up with questions. Front row middle. Dave?
Ryan, Urban used to talk a lot about how he would ask his assistant coaches for a 2-year commitment when he would hire them. Nothing that was like etched in stone, but just a kind of a gentleman's agreement. Do you subscribe to that? Did you ask your guys for a 2-year commitment?
And we talk about it when people bring their families here, that we'd like them to be here for a long time, and rather not them come here for 1 year and leave. But guys have opportunities, and I don't want to get in the way of that. But at the same time, when you're building relationships and you're recruiting, we expect at least 2 years, sometimes more. And the good news is, our coaching staff, is really entrenched in this community now, which is great. I mean, they love it here, and they're happy. So, I don't expect anybody to leave anytime soon.
It would be a good problem to have if you have, your coaches are very much wanted across the country, maybe for bigger jobs and stuff like that. But still, it'd be maybe a little bit bittersweet for you, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think that's part of the game, and understanding that as you go. I've had to move around as things went through my career, and sure, certainly don't want that, but things like that happen. But again, I just don't see that with our staff right now. I think guys, for the most part, have just got here. Other than a few of us on offense, but I expect those guys to be here for a while.
Ryan, how do you balance when to get Justin out of the game, understanding that every rep he gets, he's getting better as a quarterback? How do you balance getting him out of the game, and do things like style points and margins of victory ever factor in your mind?
No, certainly not style points or anything like that, but getting them better, yes. And it's not easy. I can't sit here and tell you there's a magic formula to figure that out. You trust your gut. In that game, I've been in those games before. You look at some of the college games that go on a weekly basis. Games can flip really fast, and they come down and score. We get that fumble that Jameson had on the kickoff, and all of a sudden they score another touchdown. You're in it. You're in a game, and so there's a fine line there. But I also hear what you're saying. You don't want to get them exposed too much, so we try to do the best we can and make those decisions as they come up.
Far left, Lori?
Ryan, when you see an offense have success against a defense with a certain type of player, something like that, do you expect that defense generally will have that button down when you see them?
Oh, you're talking about when we watch a defense on film upcoming?
When you, for instance, if you watch what Indiana did and worked for them, do you assume that Michigan State will have that button down?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, great defenses do that. They see what they what got them on film, and they make corrections that week because they know it's very much a copycat league and copycat game. So, that's what good defenses do for sure.
And we hear coaches all the time refer to, I need to look at the tape. How often do you watch film and see a vast difference between what you thought you saw on the sideline and what you actually see on video? How different is your perspective?
It's very different. It's usually never as good or as bad as you thought. There's a lot of things that typically you don't see. You see the big plays, you see the stuff that your eyes got glued to, but that it's happening so fast. And we're in a game where, or in an industry where you watch film over and over and over again, and then when you get in the game, it happens once, and you got to make really good decisions. And that's where everybody's eyes have to be right during game day, so the information's correct. But there's really so many angles you can watch and different things you can learn from film the next day.
Ryan, is Jeff Okudah a lot better this year, or is the defensive scheme putting him in a lot better positions to be better?
Hard to say. I think that Jeff's had a really good offseason, and he's gotten with Jeff Hafley in our defensive scheme, and it seems to be a good fit right now. They're off to a great start, and anytime you come in, you're another year experience, another year in the program. I think that really matters. But I think it's a combination. I think he's a year older, and he's really embraced the style of defense.
You talked after the game on Saturday about how Tuesdays and the rough practices you have, tough practices you have been so instrumental. Could you kind of elaborate on that? I know Urban Meyer, and it was Bloody Tuesdays. It's not a new concept. But what is it about the Tuesday practices that are so instrumental in what you've done on Saturday?
Well, I just think that I believe that if you're going to play hard and play tough on Saturday, it doesn't just happen magically. You can't just give the team a really good speech and get them all fired up to play in a game. It comes back to their training. You know, I'm not the only coach in America. That's not new news to anybody. But it's something we talk about every week. And we'll do a team meeting today, and then we'll just talk about how important practice is. And if we train really hard, we train really tough, we practice that way, then that's how we're going to play. And, it's going to be tough today, really hot today, and we have to work through all that stuff. But that's really what it comes down to, And I think sometimes, guys think, well, I'm just going to get all juiced up before the game, and then I'm going to go play really hard. It doesn't work that way. It's all about how you train and the practices during the week and the decisions that are made during the week, and those type of things are what matter on Saturday.
How close to game simulation is it? And can you talk more about the decision to go ones on one?
Yeah, that's hard to do. Sometimes when it fits schematically, it makes more sense than others. And we try to do it some, especially on Tuesday, a little bit on Wednesday. And that's trying to catch up with the speed of the game. Sometimes when the scheme doesn't fit, it actually doesn't work great. So we try to make that fit, on a weekly basis, do some 7-on-7 that way, do some pass rush against each other, so a little bit more individual, of an emphasis that way. But it's something that we constantly try to figure out how many ones-on-ones do we want to do this week. And then sometimes we'll get our next best guys going against them later on in practice too.
All right, Austin.
Ryan, it's somewhat rare for an individual offensive lineman to be the player of the game. What was it about Josh's performance that elevated him on Saturday, especially without Brandon?
Well, the whole offensive line graded out a champion, and I thought that Stud did a great job. Kevin did a great job of getting those guys ready during the week and giving them all the looks that we got. And I thought we handled the pressure really well, the different fronts really well. But Josh Allaby played well, and it was a tribute to his attitude and what he's done up to this point. In the world of people just wanting to go to another school or transfer and go into the portal and try to run to someplace else. This is a guy who stuck with it, kept a great attitude. And when the team called on him, he stepped up and played really well. And I thought, we all felt that he deserved to be player of the game.
Nobody likes to change up a lineup due to injury, so Brandon obviously going to come back at some point and compete there. But does Josh change the equation at all, the way he played on Saturday?
Well, he's proven last year. He proved that he could play at a high level, and did a good job late in the season for us, and he did it again. So we talked about how we'll play those guys as much as we can and try to play depth. And if that means on a rotating basis, we will. We'll see how those guys feel this week. And but he'll play. He'll continue to play.
Front row left, Nathan.
At what point in the week did you know that he was going to have to be the guy that went at right tackle, and how many snaps was he able to get in practice at right tackle?
Pretty much all week we knew.
Was he involved back in the preseason as far as competing for that job? And where does Nicholas Petit-Frere now kind of fit into this mix?
Yeah, the good news is Josh can play both positions. He can move back and forth from right to left, and that makes it, he's much more versatile than maybe he was when he first came over from defense, and that's a tribute to him, being able to move from the right to the left. And he'd mostly been practicing at left, and then he goes over to right and can play like he did. Again, hats off to him. But yeah, and then Nick's in the mix too. He's mostly at right, and he's working to get better. And he got in the game late in the game. He's gotten a lot of these games, and he's improving. But again, especially as offensive lineman, the more experience you can get in games, the better off it's going to be in the long run.
Second row right, Tony.
Ryan, when you're coming up with an offensive game plan and you have to go against somebody like Chase Young, how much time does that take? How much focus do you guys spend on just an individual like that when he can do so much?
Well, I think that's a great question, because I think if you spend too much time thinking about it, you can get yourself all distracted. If you don't spend enough time, he can beat you. So I think that's kind of the art of coaching again, is how much do you spend time on a great player? There's a couple great players on Michigan State. How much time are we going to spend figuring out how to neutralize those guys, because they are the difference makers. And in college football, great players have to play great. And Chase is one of those guys that demands a lot of attention.
And then with respect to your injury policy, is there a chance that Teron Vincent and C.J. Saunders won't play this year? Will they?
I don't know about that. We'll have to see.
Right behind him, Rob.
You become head coach at Ohio State, and suddenly people care about what you think on national issues. Lucky you. Pay for endorsement. Where do you stand on it? Are you in favor of athletes getting paid for their likeness? I know it's a sticky issue, but where are you?
Yeah, well, I'm very much aligned with Gene on this issue, and I understand that it's very complex, and I think it's an exciting issue for student athletes. But I'm interested to see kind of where it goes and the talks that happen, and I do definitely think that there's opportunity out there for these guys, but at the same time, it's not that easy, and there's a history of college football that has been around for a long time, and I know everybody's sensitive to not turn that off into a bad road. And so, but again, my focus right now is really just on the season, so it's hard to get too much down that road. But Gene and I have had great conversations, and I'm very much aligned with his thoughts on that.
And an odd question. You've been on the other side of this where you were a huge underdog, maybe at Boston College, and you're taking on a team that on paper is vastly superior. Are there principles when you were that team to try to win that game? I mean, when you're that big of an underdog?
Yeah, I think, absolutely. I think anytime, you come into a game, you just go back to, what you believe in, what your plan to win is, and don't change that. And you just got to be physical. And I know those guys are going to do the same thing. They don't turn the ball over. They control the game. And, if we come in and do anything other than what we've done in the past, I mean, we're going to be in it up to our eyeballs. And so, these guys, they're not going to be intimidated by Ohio State. You kidding me? I mean, they've been in here plenty of times in the stadium and done a great job, and one of the more storied histories in all college football at Michigan State. So, those guys know the recipe, and we better come to play, or else we're going to be in it.
Second row left, Steven.
There's obviously plenty of guys on this roster who have played both sides of the ball in high school before they got here, but you've got a recruit right now who he's a defensive guy, he's a defensive end, but he's playing quarterback as well. I guess, is there a benefit for him being able to see that position from both sides, I guess, of how they go at each other, I guess?
Oh, yeah, I can't really comment on any specific recruits, but I can say that anytime somebody plays multiple positions or multiple sports, we look at it as a positive, because it allows them to compete and, work through different things, learn skills that maybe they haven't learned in another position. So we love that, yeah.
I guess, is there because of maybe the position, does it matter what the position is? I guess, like, if it's a cornerback and a wide receiver playing, maybe you can kind of implement that for what they do here. If it's a quarterback and a defensive end, is there any real benefit for you, the way you guys can do that?
Again, I don't. I just think that anytime you get to play another position or another sport, you're increasing your ability as a total athlete. Just whether it's spatial awareness or, let's say you're a quarterback and someone puts you in defense. I love that. Because now they got to learn to be tough and stick their face on people. So, again, anytime they can do multiple things, I think it's great.
Question about the offensive line. Last year, from a run blocking standpoint, it struggled a little bit, especially early on. And now this year, like, from a statistic standpoint, it's one of the best in the country. How much is the play calling? How much affect that? How much is who the quarterback is have an effect on the run blocking?
I don't know. I don't think it's any one thing, but I think that when you look at what Stud's done and Kevin and everybody on our staff, and then when you look what the guys are doing and taking ownership, Josh and Wyatt, Jonah inside, and then on the outside, Thayer, Brandon and Josh, they've all taken a lot of pride in what they're doing. And, we talked about being tough and running the ball and how important that was this year, and they're embracing it, And so, again, off to a good start, but now we just have a bigger bullseye on our chest, so we got to do a great job every week because, now people are seeing that we're running the ball, so we're up against one of the best run defenses in college football in the last 2 decades this week. So, we're going to have to bring our A game.
Surprised at how well it's been, especially with this many new parts this early in the season?
No.
Right next door, Ari.
Ryan, there are a lot of unforeseen things happen here at the quarterback position. How tough is it when you have a quarterback committed for years and you need to take 2 in the same class? You knew you were going to have to take 2. How much of a challenge is it to do that?
Yeah, the quarterback situation in college football is as sensitive as it can be, and you try to do the best you can. We always want to have 4 on scholarship, and you do the best you can to adapt year in and year out and make the best decisions you can. And, nobody's, more aware of that than we are, just what's happened. You think about what we had a few years ago. You had JT, Joe, Dwayne, and Tate in the room. And, they're all kind of gone off. JT graduated, Joe's at LSU, Dwayne's in the NFL, and then Tate decided to leave. So you have a whole new group of guys in here. And that was just a couple years ago. And so it happens quickly, and especially at a high-profile place like Ohio State. And we'll do the best we can to adapt to it and make sure we have 4 guys in a room.
recruiter, though, how do you handle that when you have somebody who's been committed for a while? You know, it's a different position than every other position because there's only one that plays. How do you handle
well,
that?
I think what you tell them in recruiting is that all we can guarantee is that there's going to be 3 other guys in a room with you, and you're going to be part of an unbelievable program, have all the resources you need, be part of a great culture, and you're going to get coached up at the highest level. And all we can guarantee is that, and the fact that there's going to be 3 other guys in a room with you, whether they're freshmen, seniors, transfers. You just don't know because you don't have a crystal ball.
Fourth row middle, Patrick.
Ryan, Michigan State's secondary, their pass defense has long been considered one of the best in the country. Statistically, they're not where they normally are this year so far, but I'm curious what kind of challenge they present for Justin in this kind of
they have a defensive system that has been challenged for years and years, so they have answers. So if you run a play against them, they have the answer right away. They're really good at knowing what the defense is. They're not super complicated, but they have answers to everything that you do. So the minute you run a play, they're on top of it, and they got to defend the next play. So and these are guys who have played in the system for a while, and there's coaches who have coached in the system for a while. So it's a tremendous challenge.
So for a first-year starter, 6 games in, who hasn't faced something like that before, what do you guys do to get him ready for that type of challenge?
You just do the best you can to teach him the style of defense, the system of defense, and give him a good, clean game plan where he can play. And then he has to learn, as time goes along, the adjustments that they're making, and anticipate, what the defense is going to do the best you can. But you don't have a whole bunch of time on that. You have a week, you have 3 practices really, and that's the challenge of being a quarterback, is being able to take a whole new style of defense and put a game plan on the field in 1 week. So. That's going to be the challenge this week.
On the other side of the ball, your defensive line, obviously we've seen what they've done, but how much are they helping the secondary with the way they're getting the quarterbacks? We saw Adrian Martinez forced out of the pocket quite a bit. How much does that make it easier on the secondary, or maybe they have to cover longer?
They work together, and it's kind of hand in hand. If you get a great rush and you can get the quarterback off his platform, then that makes a huge difference, and maybe he's getting the ball out a little bit sooner than he wants. And then vice versa, if the secondary is covering and he can't get the ball out on 3 and a hitch and on time, now he holds it for an extra second. That allows the defense to get to the quarterback, and that's team defense right there.
Far left, second row, Matt.
You mentioned in your opening comments about the history of this game, Michigan State, Ohio State. They've had some teams that have come up and bid Ohio State. Why is it important to address that with the team? Like, these guys didn't play on those teams, and some of them weren't born in some of the years that it's happened. But why do you feel it's important to
I just think it's important to understand, what you're getting into every week, and every week is a whole new season, and it matters. I think it's the coaching staff we're going against. It's Michigan State. It's the people. It's everything, and it's important to know the history of the 2 teams and when they played, what's happened, and what you're up against each week. I really think that's important to teach these kids. They're 18, 19, 20 years old. Some of them don't even really understand, the history. And so I think it's good for them to hear that and understand that and know what they're getting into each week. So we do that. It starts with a team meeting, today at 2:30, and then we kind of, hammer that message throughout the week.
I want to ask you, too, Kenny Willekes on their defensive line. What jumps off the tape when you
Production. He's really productive. I feel like he's in on every play when I watch a clip of film. His hands, he's got to be really, really strong because he gets off of blocks better than anybody I've seen in the last couple of years on film in this conference. He plays really hard. His motor is off the chart. He's very difficult to block. Really good player, really tough, and strong. He's in on every tackle, it seems like.
Fourth row left, Edward.
Are you surprised at all at how well Justin has played to this point? Not even being on campus for a year, kind of struggling here during the spring, going through a new system for him.
I try not to have too many expectations because it's just all that matters is getting better every day and seeing where it goes. And he's played well. Haven't played full 4 quarters yet, but we'll see. But he's been growing, and the more experience he gets, the better he'll be. But again, try not to put too many expectations on it, other than the fact that let's get better every day and take care of that ball.
And when it comes to Michigan State's defense, he's still young. Is there anything that you have to hold back compared to other games going against a defense like this with him? No, I don't think you hold back. I think you have to be aggressive. You can't not be aggressive. That's kind of the way we are. We like to be aggressive, but he's got to
he can't just go into the game and think he's all set. All of a sudden, he's played in a few games here, and he's going to go in against a great defense and just start going away from what's got him to this point. And that's discipline. That's being tough, and making those decisions. And I think he's done a good job of that. I think he's had decisions where he could have maybe forced it in there, and he's thrown the ball away. He's done that a couple times where he did, like the end of the first half. He kind of scrambled around and made a play to Luke, but that was dangerous. That could have gone the other way, and so he's got to learn that off of film. And sometimes we call a good play and people are open. Great. Sometimes defense calls a good play and it's not open. Well, throw it away. We'll live to see the next down. I thought he did a great job of that. In the second drive, it was 2nd and 10 in the red zone. We called the play to the tight end. It wasn't there. He threw it away. The next play, we get the first down and the third down and end up scoring. And I thought the play of the drive was a throwaway on 2nd down, and I told him so. So, again, those are the kind of things that he's growing with.
And during fall camp, what was the biggest difference you saw with how he was adapting to your offense and kind of getting comfortable with this guys?
Just the experience and, understanding it. And when you learn a language, when you learn something new, when you learn plays and you have to think about it, then it's not there. Now I think it's second nature. I think he understands it.
Just to follow up on Justin, he's now over 100 pass attempts, and he hasn't been picked off. You mentioned one of the throws that was close yet, but I'm curious if you look at all those 100 throws, it seems pretty rare for a quarterback not to be picked off yet. Is that some luck involved? Is you overall happy with the decision-making? I'm just curious from other quarterbacks you work with how rare that is.
No, I mean, he's done a good job of taking care of the ball. I think there's a couple that, he threw in harm's way that maybe could have gone the other way, but they didn't, and so he's got to keep making those good decisions, take care of the ball.
And one thing Scott Frost mentioned yesterday is he said he had you guys number 1 on his coach's poll ballot. You have a vote in it this year. I'm just kind of curious where you'd rank your team.
Yeah, I don't really give away where I rank the teams and all that, but we're getting better every week, and what matters is what the ranking is at the end of the season.
Got time for a couple more. Second row middle, Bruce.
I would describe that win Saturday as very businesslike. There were a lot of things that could have distracted you with game day and the road and all that stuff. I wondered, do you put much stock in a pregame read on your team? It may not be right before you go out on kickoff. It might be on a plane. It might be Friday. Just what's your frame of reference on getting a vibe on your team and when they're ready to just go out and do business like that?
I think you get a vibe during the week for sure with the way they practice, but there's definitely a feel the day of, and it's hard for a night game because you don't just want to wake up and have them start running through walls for you because the game's not till that night. I think you can usually tell if it's a noon kickoff if they wake up with energy and juice. They got a good look in their eye. They're probably fresh and ready to roll. A little bit harder on a night game, but again, I think it goes back to if they practice hard during the week, they're going to play well.
You clearly have themes you emphasize: toughness, tackling, the fundamental type stuff. But I know you probably cognizant as a coach of your message not getting stale. How do you try to vary it, or how do you emphasize the same things without it becoming the same message and they just tune you out and you have a bad performance?
I think that's another art of coaching this generation is that, I talk about we have to be tough, and to your point, I think, maybe they get tired of hearing it or they can't get tired of hearing it because that's what's got us to this point, and we're building that toughness. But toughness isn't just on the field. It's all these other things that are going to come in. It's sustaining. That's what toughness is. Can you sustain throughout a season? And if you can, then you are tough. If you aren't, then you aren't as tough as you thought you were. And so that's all the stuff that on a weekly basis we have to just keep hammering away. And we're not going to get away from that. I think there will be some other things along the way that, to your point, where we have to maybe focus this week on something a little bit more than others. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how tough we are. And if we can sustain throughout the season, then we are tough. If not, then we're not going to be.
Is that coach-driven or is it player-to-player driven?
Well, it starts off coach-driven, but then as the leaders can pick that up and start hammering that message home to everybody else, that's when you have something special. And I think that's the best teams I've been around, the players are the ones who hammer that message home. So if the coaches leave the room and they're still saying the same message, now you got something special. If it's just coach-driven, then it's just okay. But we want to be elite.
At this point, is Master Teague III a surprise to you anymore? What do you see that's come along big time in his game? And there was that one series Saturday night. It looked like I called it the fatigue program, where you went to him 3 straight times for a touchdown. Just what's come right with him?
Well, he's a great change-up to J.K. He's different, and so I think that matters in a game. But I think to answer your question, I think Master's done a good job of taking care of the ball. That's the first thing. Because as hard as he runs and as big as he is and all those things, if you don't take care of the ball, you can't play a running back here at Ohio State. So now he's taking care of the football. He gave it up a couple weeks ago, but that was it. For the most part, he's hung on to the ball. I think he's running hard. I think he's downhill, and when he sees it, he's rolling. And so the different schemes that we're doing, I think, fit his style really well. And he, may not be pretty, but he's pouring it up in there, and he's practicing. There was a time there in the spring and the preseason he wasn't practicing, so that's hard to get better.
One other thing, I think it was in Indiana. It looked like you guys ran left side a lot. It may have just been because of the plan and stuff. But Saturday night, are you getting feedback from upstairs that Josh Allaby's having a hell of a game? And because y'all seem to run right a lot on occasion Saturday night. Do you work a game like that?
I think we get some feedback of, are we handling them? I think you can usually tell that within a game. Are we blocking them or are we struggling to block them? And if we're struggling to block them, why that is, and you try to solve that. But typically we don't typically go like one side more than the other. I think it's just kind of the way the game plays out.
And final questions, front row left, Doug.
When you left San Francisco, did you tell Hafley I'm going to hire you when I become a head coach?
No, but we had several conversations about coaching in college, and that's where we both wanted to end up. And I told him on Sunday we were going to coach together. I didn't know I'd be the head coach here, and that's how it would work out. But I always knew I'd coach with him again. He's somebody that I had a connection with right away, had a lot of respect for. I think he's a tremendous coach, relates well with players, and he's a great recruiter. And that was somebody I always wanted to be around. And so I knew I'd coach with him again. I just didn't know where.
When you were an assistant, did you have the list of guys that I will hire when I become a head coach someday?
No. I had a list of guys that I was colleagues with and people I respected, but you just never know where people are at in their careers and where things are at, and you try to piece it together the best you can. But he was always a guy that I obviously wanted to have on the staff.
And all the things you had to do when you took over this program, that part of it, figuring out the 10 guys that you wanted to have on your first staff, were you nervous about that? Were you super confident, man, I'm going to go 10 for 10 on these hires? And just as you've watched these guys coach through the preseason, through the first 5 games, how do you think your staff has done?
I think our staff's done an excellent job. I think when you piece it together, it's not that easy. There's so many different things that come into play. Recruiting, experience, energy, football knowledge. All those things, when you try to piece it together, it's really important. And then chemistry. If guys don't get along well, it doesn't work. And I talked to our guys about that. Our team can feel the staff chemistry. If we love each other as coaches, then they're going to feel that. And that was just as important as any. And for the most part, guys kind of knew who each other was. Jeff and Greg really didn't, so that was something that we had to work together. But I think they tell you that the chemistry on that side of the ball is excellent right now, and we're doing a great job. And now, again, the challenge is to sustain it throughout the season.